Don't count the medals before they are won. Before the cricket team and a football team, a hockey team went out saying that we are Indians and we are there. And now you're talking about nationalism and pride and all that. Take some pride in that also. Athletes are going to push for medals. There's no way they are not going to try and cut every corner to gain advantage. They did not want her to go for the Olympics. They wanted her to go away. They did not want her to be in the headlines in their face.
Hello, everybody. I've been on an emotional roller coaster, as I'm sure you have if you've been watching the Olympic Games. Now, I'm still wrapping my head around what happened to Vinesh Phogat. It is nothing short of heartbreaking. I've enjoyed Lakshya Sen coming out of nowhere and giving us all these great expectations. And of course, Neeraj Chopra and the Indian hockey team continuing to deliver on medals. Oh my God, it's been quite incredible. But as the games start winding down, inevitably all the questions about did we get enough medals? Are we spending enough? What is happening with the money we are spending? All of that is going to happen. And also an evaluation of how India is performing as a sporting nation. I'm going to talk about Paris 2024 with the one person I go to talk about everything in sports because she does just such a fabulous job of explaining things. She writes sublimely about sporting prowess and she places it all in the context of the political and socio-economic ecosystem in which our athletes function. And in doing this, she helps us understand both India and the human condition. Please welcome Sharda. Sharda, my God, what a week, 10 days, a fortnight this has been. You must have been going insane.
Good morning, Anuradha. So literally, like you said, up, down, up, down. So I'm with ESPN for the Olympics, a whole bunch of colleagues, and there's this office, and you should have just been in that office on the day Vinesh Phogat won those bouts. Like the place, it was a large corporate office. We were about 10, 15 of 10 of us there max, 10, 11, 12. And the screaming would have broken windows. It's been just crazy. This happens at every Olympics. You just go through this whole rush, and with a lot of athletes, people talk about their journeys coming into the games and how they're going to do. And as older sort of journalists, you're looking at it and saying, don't get so excited. The Olympics are really complicated. They're tough. So just like, hang on. Don't assume, don't count medals before they are won. So that's the thing. How many medals are they going to win? You ask, you say, you're asked and you say, but yeah, don't count the medals before they're won. It's just wild.
Don't count the medals before they are won. That's the key thing to go into the Olympics with. Sharda, let's talk about the highs because the heartbreak we'll come to and we will stay on it for a while. But let's start with the highs. So let's start with hockey. The men's team managing to successfully, robustly defend their bronze, and Neeraj Chopra. He gets
Exactly.
one throw out of six that
Yeah.
qualifies
Yeah.
and it flies to a silver. Just let's take both of these. You go with the hawk, whichever you want to start with first.
So Neeraj Chopra is literally the last that's just ended. So, that javelin final was over the moment Arshad Nadeem went 92.97. Over. As in the gold medal was gone. So you knew, maybe obviously the athletes are not thinking this. There's just us. We're saying, okay, this is what is going to happen.
But
Let's get
Neeraj
used to it.
has thrown in the 90s, hasn't he?
No, he hasn't. His whole questioning all the time he gets asked is, when are you going to cross 90? When are you going to cross 90? And he's very sort of, I'll cross 90 when I cross 90 kind of a thing. And Arshad does have a 90 throw already. And but whenever Arshad and Neeraj have competed, Neeraj has won. Neeraj's silver, it's his season's best performance. It's his second best performance of his best throw of his life. And it got him a silver. So the best throw of his life. So, and a very high quality final, extremely competitive form. So we were a bit nervous about Neeraj's second spot that there were people that were coming close to 88.
Yeah, the
7.
Granada gentleman got like 88 point something, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes. So that was a little bit of anxiety, and what was everyone who was watching Neeraj with not without breathing is that because and the fouls that you saw, of them, the first foul and the fifth foul was a genuine foul. Like he went over the line. The fifth foul, I think, was his best throw, but we'll not know what that is because he did slip and go over the line. The other three were deliberate. Other three said, no, don't count these in. Don't put these on my record. So the other three they were sort of known that they were, and javelin throwers are allowed to do that. Incredible.
Oh, you mean to say that there were three throws which were okay, which were not fouls, but he didn't want them to be counted because they didn't go far enough to please him.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And a lot of other athletes did that. Sometimes they throw and they just walk over the line. They just run past the line just to say, don't count it. I know it's not good, don't count it. So now we have an athlete who has won a gold medal and a silver medal for India in an individual Olympic sport. Similar to the hockey, I think it's important to note that you've had these two back-to-back successes. It's just within which in a sport shows progress and continuity. So if you're looking if you look and say Deepak Karmakar had a superb Rio Olympics, where is Indian gymnastics now? Why is there no one even competing for in qualification? But so the hockey performance and the Neeraj performance shows you that there is a continuity. Shooting, you saw a big good bunch of results. So you read a lot of other things that are there that are happening around these games in terms of success and performance and so on. There is progress amongst the athletes. Mukund Sable made the 3,000 meters steeplechase final, and you can see where there's been no progress as such. So that's the great thing about in a very almost bald, objective, cold-hearted way to say that Neeraj's 2 medals shows you that he's in the game. He is one of the top throwers of the world. He's known for his competitive sort of ability to perform competitively. But yesterday was Arshad Nadeem's night, and you just have to give it to him on a large plate. The sweetest thing,
and he did it twice. He went over
exactly
twice. So
his
it was not
last
just I think the first throw freaked him out as much as it freaked him.
But he'd done 90 before. It freaked out everybody. And so a friend of mine from Chandigarh, Saurabh Dugal, he sent me a message today about a story he'd done on Pick Story saying United Punjab have won both the silver and gold, which I thought was quite sweet. He was quite beautiful. So but a great performance. And the interesting thing about Arshad, Anuradha, if I just say, is that he's a completely elite athlete template kind of a performer, not in his technique, not in his appearance, not in his, forget training, forget everything. And for him, it's such an Olympic thing to happen that somebody comes out of nowhere and wins a medal, and wins a medal, and how, with an Olympic record. Mad. Like the Turkish shooter who was not wearing any gear and whatever, and he won a silver medal. So these kind of things happen at the Olympics. But it's been lovely to watch. Neeraj's qualifying was just such fun.
It was outstanding, right?
One throw, one and done. So we all were hoping yesterday for a one and done from Neeraj. It was a one and done, but he didn't get 2 throws that he was happy with in. But Arshad Nadeem was actually the one and done guy on the night. The hockey team, I think, fantastic. I've written about it today in ESPN. They knew how important it is to be on that podium, to stay there.
What did you say? It's hockey's jhappi hug back to India, to the country, isn't it?
Yes.
So what did you mean by that?
There's a couple of us in the office who are slightly older. We're older by about at least 20 years from the others in the office. So all of us are there who remember an old type of hockey. An old time in hockey and how bad it was. And
remember how AstroTurf was this big bogey.
Exactly. And these are young journalists and kids who are just playing, and they say it's fine. We won Asian gold, and we won the Asian games, and we are Asian champions, and we have these events, and the team is crap at some time, and we won a bronze in Tokyo. What's the big deal? And here we are all crying and going through this whole saga. And so I said, there's a whole generation of people that have stayed. You can't knock Indian hockey out of your DNA. And there are a lot of Indians, like my generation, you can't knock it out of your DNA. We are just now trying to pass our little paranoia and our little psychosis onto the new generation and say, boss, you have to see, this is it. Don't think that this is just another thing. This is hockey. This is who we are. This made us, I said, because hockey was India's first identity as an independent country, as a young country. Before the cricket team and the football team, a hockey team went out saying that we are Indians and we are there. And now you're talking about nationalism and pride and all that. Take some pride in that also. Yeah. So it was that. It's like two medal shows that we want to be in this, we're in this, and for all of us who sort of stayed and stayed the course, it said that we're hugging you back, take it, we're still in this, we haven't, we're not going to kind of we're not going to I didn't write this, we're not going to abandon you and leave you crying and wailing and depressed all over again. We're here, we are amongst the top flight teams, we're always going to be competitive, which
I
is great to
remember
watch.
in the context of the World Cup victory that India had, the T20 World Cup victory, you said, Australia is the team or the country to
Yeah,
emulate. Just to
yeah,
when you see the consistency of their wins, of their championship victories. So, if you look at that, and if you use that as a yardstick of what is a good sporting performance and what is a sporting nation, you would say in javelin and in hockey we are ticking that box, isn't it? We are
yes.
now consistently champions. We are in the top 2 3 of the world.
Hockey, you try and look at, say about five. There's sort of Germany, Holland played a very vicious, bitter kind of final yesterday. You're looking, Australia fallen away a little bit. Belgium is a very good team. Belgium's come out of nowhere in the last, say, 10 years. Belgium is a very good. So we're kind of thereabouts. We're kind of 4, 5, whatever. You would want to push to become totally dominant, but at this point, I'm just happy with the bronze. I'm not fussing at all. It's that. Javelin certainly is. Javelin certainly is. Neeraj has won 2 Olympic medals, 1 silver, 1 gold, 2 World Championship medals, 1 silver, 1 gold in the course of these 3, 4 years that have just.
Yeah.
So it shows you, and you would want now there to be more javelin throwers to come behind him and say you cannot mess with Indian javelin throwers. They are serious. They care. That you have to be looking ahead in that sense, and to build and to say like the South Korean archery team, the women.
Mm.
They've not lost at all ever in the Olympics. They've won gold medals every single for the last 10 years. So you want that. You want to be South Korea, but I think we're getting a bit South Korean archery, but I think we're getting a bit ahead at this point. Yeah, but it's fine. We started. We've begun. Yeah.
Shooting, because that's where 3 medals have come in, isn't it? And Manu Bhaker is the new sweetheart of the nation. My God, how composed is she? How zen-like? How mature? What's going
Yeah,
on?
exactly. And they all have
It's
to
another.
be.
That's a generational shift in attitude. Fair to say that.
There is a generational shift. So there was a talk in which I'd gone to moderate a session in Delhi just before the Olympics, and Manisha Malhotra, who's the head of talent scouting and excellence, she said that it's like these kids are born with chips on their shoulders. The young kids that are there that you're competing with, and the shooters are like that. They come from a different socioeconomic class as well, and they tend to be much more confident and outspoken.
Yeah.
A lot of them, some of them in this case, no. They tend to be much more confident, outspoken, and they have shooting has legacy and history in front of them that they can lean on and say we are good enough.
From Rajyavardhan Rathore,
From
right? He
Rajyavardhan,
was the
yeah.
first
He's
silver
the
medal
first
winner.
medalist. The first finalists are women. The first 2 finalists in that made an Olympic final. From Maharashtra, Suma Shiru, Anjali Vedpathak, who's become Anjali Bhagwat, and Suma Shiru. So they were the first 2 who made the Olympic finals. Okay, Abhinav Bindra made his Olympic final a day after Suma, but first is first, and it follows from there. And Suma, Dipali, they are all coaches now. They're all coaches of these young shooters, and I think the performance of the shooters has been exceptional. We made 3 other shooting finals. So there's 3 medals. Swapnil, Kusale, and 2 from Manu, and there's Swapnil Kusale is like the outlier from
Not expected, right? And then he just suddenly came in with a bronze.
Yeah, exactly. So he's under the radar, and he just knows that what he's got to do. And he comes. He's Dipali Deshpande's ward student, whatever. And he comes from Kolhapur, and so he's not part of that Delhi sort of Tughlakabad kind of this thing. He comes from another center of Indian shooting, and 2 more made the final. Arjun Babuta and Ramita Jindal, and Arjun was 4th, Ramita I think was 7th. I think there is certainly a lot of excitement about what's going to happen in LA when these shooters, after their first Olympics, that's what they're going to do. The shooters had 4, including Manu, only 4 of the 4 of the 21 shooters were second time Olympians. The rest were all first time, which shows you that there is a whole bunch of kids coming through that are very competitive. And I think the Olympics in a way will for the first generation people. I mean, Swapnil Kusale is on top of the world, deserves to be. But for all the others who are first timers, I think
Hmm.
getting into a final or seeing how tough it is to get into a final
Yeah.
will be a big learning. Manu has come from her really awful experience in Tokyo, and we know what happens when a woman athlete doesn't perform like she's supposed to perform perfectly. Definitely, if she's a young, outspoken female athlete with some amount of confidence, everyone is waiting to go after her, which they did after Tokyo. She had a bad performance there. She was seen
Hmm.
as the star child of the Tokyo team.
Hmm.
She was, I think, 19, teenager. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, but her composure comes from that.
Now all the conversation of 470 crores have been spent by the government of India. This is the sector, these are the sports that it has gone on
Yes.
proportionately. What have they done? All those conversations are needed. They will happen. But can I say, Sharda, that I just enjoyed watching all the Indian athletes play in these games, even when they placed badly, like the archers. I sat
Yeah.
and saw everything, and I was like,
Good for you.
everyone's so confident, everyone is so, like, we until the moment that they got out of the reckoning, you just kept thinking that they were in the reckoning. There wasn't,
Yeah.
like, what I'm trying to say is India didn't look and sound like losers, which, again, people of a certain vintage, we have that hangover, right, that
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
not good enough in many sports internationally, and cricket is our big main
Yeah.
staple saving grace. In these Olympics, I know the medals have not shown up, and I know all the discussion is happening even as we speak. But do you think that Indian athletes were really in a different zone from where they've been
Absolutely.
before?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Because I think Indian elite athletes are looked after in a way that very few elite athletes are looked after in the world. There is no way there is your top scheme and your
Yeah.
Mission Olympic Cell and all these other companies that are set up to look after
And the
athletes, and
private companies and the
the private
private
companies that have
initiatives,
come
right?
in, and
So GQ, Inspire, JWS, all of them,
absolutely,
Reliance
absolutely.
Foundation, everybody's
Yes.
doing something.
Yes, yes. So that's why the elite athlete is well looked after,
Hmm.
and there's an interesting, and like I said, chips on their shoulders. They know, and they. I think it was with the shooting team. I read somewhere that they didn't go to as many World Cups as they did previously because World Cup victories were easy, and they were preparing for the big thing. They were preparing for the Olympics. I think shooting will be happy. I not totally satisfied. I think they were looking for 6 or 7 medals or something like that, but three as compared to 0-0 from Tokyo and Rio is great. It's a 300% increase. So, but this confidence you're saying is a right thing. The Avinash Sable 3,000 meter steeplechase. He in his heat he led. And a friend of mine I was chatting to was an athlete herself. She said, "I just like the confidence with which he led the field because he wanted the space to be able to run and he didn't want to get boxed in. That's what happened in the final eventually, and he didn't do as well as he wanted to. But he had that in his head that I can do this, And they all looked sort of confident, and they all looked like because they had been looked after till the point of reaching here. All they had to do now was show up and perform. They came with the confidence that the people had looked after them. They weren't coming there, ticket late ho gaya, visa nahi aaya, last minute clearance. They came with none of that.
Yeah,
They
all the
came
horror
well
stories that
trained.
you've associated
Gone,
with sports,
gone,
with the
gone.
sports ecosystem in the past, isn't it?
Yes, gone, gone, gone. And I mean, not all, but yeah, that at the level of the elite Olympics, I think people are doubly careful. They're just
So,
because they know
so
that it'll just news will come out. And
So if they're being well looked after, are you, Sharda, of the opinion that Prakash Padukone expressed in the context of badminton, where we saw Lakshya Sen, like Flash Gordon, playing badminton? My God! And he was not expected
Flash
to be
Gordon,
in a
yeah,
semi-final, right?
yeah,
He was
yeah.
not
He
expected
wasn't
to
the
be in a
favorite.
semi-final.
He wasn't the favorite amongst the badminton players that were there. They were counting on the doubles team. They were, Sindhu was a bit of an outside chance, but yeah, Lakshya was sort of not there.
So
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 Hmm.
then, do you think Prakash Padukone's words were a little harsh where badminton players, and especially Lakshya, was concerned? Because we saw Lakshya kind of not expected to be there, then go, at game point, sort of squander away a game, lead Axel Sen again in the second game, squander that away. Then we saw what happened for the bronze medal match. He won a game. So, where talk about this guy, and also in the context of what Prakash Padukone said, and in the context of what you've just said, which is elite Indian athletes today are being looked after. They're getting the support and the infrastructure that they need.
Support and scientific help and everything else. And that's not to say that the Vinesh story of the past, what's happening with young girls, is not happening in wrestling. Let me just point that out, that it's not there, that it's just all sport is safe for women in this country. That's not true. The Lakshya story is very interesting because he's always been seen as a prodigy and that he was always going to come through. That he came out of that group which had Jonathan Christie in it is what if got
That
everybody.
match, that's why I said Flash Gordon on the
Yeah,
badminton, playing
yeah,
badminton.
yeah, exactly. Flash Gordon playing badminton. That's great. So I think, and his defeats in both matches against different opponents was similar in that sense that he
Mm,
led, and then he
mm.
couldn't back it up
It's like he
with.
couldn't consolidate his win,
He
right?
couldn't
He kind of
consolidate,
squandered
and I
away
think
advantages.
that's yeah, and I think that's what Prakash. We know Prakash Padukone is very very careful in what he says. He's very
Mm,
measured. He
mm.
doesn't give quotes, like he's not rent a quote at all. And
Yeah.
so there are two things here. One is that he was just angry that uh, that
Came so close.
Lakshya, who he has worked with since he was very young, was so close to an Olympic medal, the first for a male Indian badminton player. So maybe that was just a reaction, but that's most unlike him. Maybe it was said in a careful and a measured way because he wanted to make a point and he wanted to say, like, look, this is not going to go unnoticed because you are feeling bad. Toughen up, kind of a thing.
Mm.
In I, there's one thing in which I agree with this, like the archery, for example. I did a story about it as well.
You made this comparison between archery and shooting, and how shooting has delivered the goods more consistently, and archery hasn't, despite great promise, especially at the Olympics, right? They've done well at the World Championships.
Yes, because at the World Championships, the pressure and the scrutiny and the expectation is about 5% of what it is at the Olympics. So that's what the Olympics is. And every athlete knows that. Everyone who performs at the Olympics knows that this is the biggest deal of all, and we should come through. But somehow it's not it's not worked out. I mean, we know why it's not worked out, but they're not able to change that habit. They're not able to change that habit of how they've
So
gone about their
So
performances.
go back to the comment, and therefore the censure that Prakash Padukone expressed, because like I said, I was like, oh my God, where did this guy come from, and how cool is he, and maybe he'll be a medal next, and whatever,
Yes.
right? And then I hear his coach say that, and there also seems to be this, why treat your athletes so badly, not badly, harshly, when they've
After
just
the
lost,
Yeah.
etc. You're not in that camp. You believe the tough
I
love is
think
the way to go.
no, I don't think tough love. Tough love. It depends from athlete to athlete, but I don't think that and that medals don't automatically get you. Money doesn't automatically get you medals. But then in this heated environment where you are, like Abhinav Bindra says, go up and show up.
Hmm.
You have to show up, and that's what sport is about. It is about getting results, and I think I don't think Prakash was referring to all athletes. I think he was specifically talking about badminton because and he has expectations, and especially when he gets attacked and told that, oh, like, what do you know? I think he's Prakash Padukone. He was there before you were born. He's been a professional many decades ago. So, and he knows what the sport demands. And badminton's transformation in India over the last 12, 15 years, more than that, I'd say since 2010 onwards has been incredible, incredible. And the only sport that has gone backwards, I think, is tennis in comparison. So, we are really happy with how badminton is doing. It's vibrant, it's alive, stuff is going on. But you want a medal to show for it. And uh, all the other sort of ancillary things have been taken away. All the other ancillary problems have been taken away. And you had an opportunity. It's not that you didn't beat Jonathan Christie and get to the final. You had an opportunity not once but twice. So as an athlete, you have to, like you said, you have to introspect and ask yourself, what could I have done better? Maybe Axel Sin's too tough, but maybe what about the second game and so on. And I think it's reasonable to ask for introspection at that level. And to have a little bit of is he going to recover and come? I mean, how will Lakshya respond to this? He looks up to Prakash. Prakash is almost like a parent to him. So I would think he'd just say, I'll have to swallow it and move on and be better.
These were all the places where we enjoyed, we thought we had medal hopes. Let's now talk about Vinesh Phogat. The trauma of this weight cutting and weighing in. What is happened? What went wrong with Vinesh Phogat's weight? Is it Viren Raskina, OGQ, which works with her, has
Yes,
put out a statement saying, look, this
yes.
is not sabotage. But there are also questions about the management. Is it about management, or is it a gamble that she took that didn't work out?
I think the gamble that she took is that I'm going to compete in the 50
50,
kilogram
yeah.
category, right? As you read in that statement, that's the gamble she took. Number one, I did not realize when I was talking about this somewhere else that she had only competed in these single day tournaments where you have to make your weight cut once. You have to get
Mm,
within. This is twice over, and I think it's the
yeah.
recovery from making the weight cut, getting your energy back, fighting, and then because you've eaten through the day, you're fighting. You have to eat to keep going. How are you going to
Yeah.
manage?
Yeah.
Is to put that down and do the weight, step on the scale again the next day.
Do you think her sports team could have managed it better? The process of shedding the weight and putting it up.
It's a possibility it could have been managed. I think Vinay, maybe managed better. We don't know. But I think Vinesh, because she was competing way below her, instead of almost two levels below her normal fighting weight, as they call, is that it they had to give her something to keep her standing, in that sense. They had to give her something to give her some energy to move and to be ready to get around. And the weight cut is a brutal regimen, and it's done because everyone wants to fight in a weight category slightly lower to their normal weight and use the extra power, speed, whatever muscle mass to be able to perform. It's bizarre if you think about it, but that's what it is. So it could be one of two things, that something was off in the sense of what they give, but you're looking at what she ate and it's nothing. And she's fought the whole day in those terribly brutal sort of fights that she's had. And she's had half a glass of water and something, some few snacks, and she got, and her treat was some really small morsel of food, and you're saying, what more can you do? In that sense. And 100 grams is just, it's such a typical Indian sports story that it's like off by this much, if you remember PT Usha's fourth place and whatever and all.
This has happened before. This is par for the course, it seems, for all wrestlers across the board. So this management of weight is something that is possible to do.
It is possible to do, but remember, it's possible to do normally if you have a 1 day wrestling competition. It's okay, you do it once and it's done. You make scales, it's done. Here she's doing it twice. She's doing it
So, but
two
then
days.
why does the wrestling federation, I mean the International Wrestling Federation, have this rule? What is the sporting logic for them to do something
It was
like
quite
this?
interesting because they were trying to beat this wrestlers trying to cut weight drastically and make it healthier and more normal, and say,
It
okay,
seems to be exactly the opposite, isn't it?
exactly. Exactly. This 2 day thing has changed I mean, Vinesh's case has really put out the other end of what can happen.
Yeah.
Because athletes are going to push for medals. There's no way they're not going to try and cut every corner to gain advantage.
Mm.
And it's so it seems a logical thing to say that this is why we did it. So that if you have to do it twice, you'll be a little bit more careful. You'll be careful about, you'll choose which weight you want to fight carefully, which is also seems to make
Mm.
sense. But Vinesh had to fight in this 50 kilo category because she had not got quota. And she was determined to fight no matter what. She was willing to literally risk herself, knowing she had to do all these horrible weight cutting things and exercises and go through it again just to be able to give herself a chance to win that Olympic medal and to prove
So,
to the world that she was still a competitive fighter, which she has shown us in that
yeah,
one day.
you've written about the Olympian that she is, right? And her effort, and she's, I mean, just what was it? We are living in Vinesh's world, and the zid and the stubbornness that she's displayed to make that point both on and off the mat. But this relationship that we saw was so contentious, where she went up against the federation, brought down Brijbhushan Singh in the way that she did. um did she pay the price by not, because I was reading Viren Raskina's note that he put out, and he says that country can only send one wrestler per Olympic category if they seal a quota. Post her return to play, which is post surgery, Vinesh would have ideally liked to compete in the 53 kg category, which was her
Yes,
regular weight category. She requested for transparency on trial dates. However, there was no clarity on the same, so she decided to go in the 50 kg category and won the quota and the Olympic qualifiers. As you all saw, her choice was right. And she did so well in this weight, beating the Olympic and world champion Susaki of Japan and two other wrestlers to make it to the final. So, my question to you is, the federation could have helped her get that 53 category and they deliberately did not? Is it because of the relationship? Is it because they didn't care for her to actually even go to the Olympics? How does one read this,
they
given we
actually,
know the political context of that
yeah,
relationship?
they did not want her to go for the Olympics. They wanted her to go away. They did not want her to be in the headlines in their face. So whatever they could do to make her go away was done. So there was a whole thing that she went for double trials at in Patiala. There's a report I read just yesterday. She lost in the 53 kg, and then and you're not supposed to compete in two, and it's all
Hmm.
very messy. Yeah, Antim won the quota. She went, and Vinesh, Vinesh, who was the troublemaker and the
Hmm.
thorn in the side of the wrestling federation, and a public figure who is going to come out and call you out every single time. They don't want you there. So they found a way to ensure that she just couldn't go in the weight category that she wanted. And I don't think anybody expected her to do this well on that one day. I don't think they expected her to go, and her draw was just insane. You know, so yeah, it was just mad.
Unfortunately, the political context of the battle she waged with the Federation and Brijbhushan Singh and all his proxies, that saw our social media erupt in this. Oh my God, this is a controversy. She's made it, and look how she's made it. And we all celebrated that. And the next day in the morning, this devastating news that
Yes.
she was disqualified because she didn't make the weight category. Um, there was this obvious question of sabotage, sabotage, sabotage. You totally, absolutely negate that, isn't it?
I mean, there is no proof. You know, there is no proof, and there appears to be no logic. But I mean, maybe there is a sort of devious logic in one side, but there is no proof. And from whatever you're saying, as much as my emotional response first was to say, because let me say this here, it's not that Indian athletes have not been sabotaged by federations in the past. It has happened. And the methods that they use are usually doping or some other excuse that is there. It's
Mhm.
not to say that sabotage has not happened in the past. Has it happened in this case? There is no proof to say that it has. Is there a reason for there to be sabotage? I'm a journalist. I'm not going to say no to that. So I have to cover all my options. But at this point in time, there appears to be no proof that there is any kind of sabotage, and the statements have come from uh, from her own team, and it's almost like saying, look, we tried and we failed, and it's on us. And people are talking about it in a way because it became such an emotional story that people are saying black magic was done. You can't, but that's how emotional
Yeah,
how
yeah.
upset everybody was that
So,
they
okay,
turned to everything.
do you have any expectations of this petition to the international, arbitration, the court for sport?
Not really, because when you look at it, as lawyers will tell you that this is the facts and this is the law, and over there seems to be no leeway.
Yeah.
So we don't know what possible angle or what possible. The rules is unfair, but it's the rule. You didn't
Hmm.
complain about it earlier. So
Hmm.
the rule is not unfair, it's just illogical, but you didn't complain about
Yeah.
it earlier.
Do you see this rule change after this
I
incident
think that
going
will
forward?
definitely happen. I think that will definitely happen because there's been such a groundswell of support for Vinesh. There's been such outrage that this has happened because she's done all these crazy things to keep her weight at that level. The American wrestler Jordan Burroughs has posted about it. He's
Yeah.
given a
Yeah.
whole list of suggestions. I think there will definitely be a relook
Some relook for
at the
sure.
rules. Yes, a relook, and they can't retrospectively change the rules for
Of course.
in Vinesh's case, but there will be a relook.
Will the Vinesh Phogat story go down as one of the most tragic Indian Olympic stories? And why Indian? Actually, in the world of sports, in the whole history of the Olympics, is this one of the most tragic stories we've encountered so far?
I think it's a really sad story, but the thing is that as a sporting event and incident of what happened to her on that day, it's a devastating story. It is just soul crushing. What it will do to her and for her going ahead, what it has made her, how she will come out of it is like it's just all of us are just holding our heads. And but she's an athlete, and athletes do crazy things. I think everyone's pushing. I'm going to put this out there and say, if we were a fair and a just sporting country in with a lot of the athletes in a lot of cases, if we cared about them, everyone in their right mind in wrestling would say we have to get her to LA. Let's do whatever we can to make sure that she goes to LA and she gets that medal because she deserves it. She's an extremely capable fighter. She's an extremely high class fighter. And what happened to her is not fair. Let's do our best to push her through, even if it means giving her this undue attention or whatever. Let's just do it because, of course, we are emotional people and we respond emotionally. It should be in that sense. Whether she wants to do it or not, she said she's retired, but
Yeah,
she's not.
that statement sounded quite not negotiable, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know
I mean,
her.
if,
I
if
don't know.
someone came to look, we are not going to get in your way. You want to go to LA, we'll help you get to LA. What can we do? But obviously, that's not going to happen. That's just me talking in some Hollywood sort of Bollywood kind of movie script.
Happy ending movie.
Yeah, happy ending type card. It's not going to
Hmm.
happen. But you know, if
But
they
you're
want
saying that
to,
that is what this country could do for her, which is
this
give
country
her
wants to do everything for
everything.
her. I've had people saying, I want letters to be written and sent to IOC and whatever. This country wants to do everything for her. It's a wrestling federation and the sporting bodies in the country that are the people that have to respond. Let us not forget at this point that the Indian Olympic Association head, president, PT Usha, when the wrestlers went to protest, she ticked them off. The
Yeah,
head of
yeah,
the Gagan Narang, who's the chef de mission
yeah.
of the Indian contingent in Paris, he's the head of the Athletes Commission. Nothing. So why do we think that they're going to? This is an image um, problem. This is an image resolution problem that's trying to happen at this point in time. Turning up and showing photos and whatever. That's it's an image problem that they're trying to resolve. And making the move to say we're going to court and whatever. So
Why was the response like that? Because of the politics? Because she took on the
absolutely,
federation and the
three
chief,
hundred
and of
percent,
course he's a BJP.
absolutely,
Was a
without a
BJP MP.
shadow of doubt. Absolutely, that's what it was. There's no other reason. Anyone else would have been thrown under the bus in like overnight.
Everything that you feel is wrong with our country, with us, it all intersects in this story of Vinesh
Yes,
Phogat and
yes.
what has happened to her, isn't
Of
it?
power and of privilege and of muscle power, political power. Satta, what they call in Hindi. You can see
Yeah.
it here.
We heard in 2023 the Prime Minister say that India is very keen to bid for the 2036 Games. We know that after Paris, there will be more concerted effort to figure out who the host is after Brisbane in 32. Are we ready? Is India ready? Does our medal performance have anything to do
I
with
mean,
it?
the medal. If you look at the medal performance, ideally you're thinking you should be winning 10 medals, but you can between now and 36 for sure. 10 medals for Olympics, very doable. Do we need to host the Olympics if it's a political project? No. If it's a sporting project, let's start with the Youth Olympics, which is, I think, is going to be held in Bombay. I think the Olympics. Are you going to be able to hold the Olympics the way Paris has said we're going to hold it more gender inclusive? And you're talking about things like gender inclusive, and you're saying, look what you're doing to your wrestlers. Sort that out first, and then have the ambitions to host an Olympic Games. Have some sense, you know. Then on what grounds are you going to talk about gender parity in 2036 if your wrestlers on the road protesting? What? So, how many women are there in your sports bodies that are your sports organizations? Not your sort of token people that are there, but actually in executive office, decision making capabilities. Very few. I can't think of anyone. You know how many women are there who actually say this is should not be done. It's not right. Or this should be done. This is what we should do. I don't think. What are the transition opportunities for women after the sporting careers get over? I don't know how that works. So there's so many of these other issues that are there, but of course you can get it all washed away by saying the pride of India or whatever. Do you want to build unnecessary large number of meaningless stadiums that you're not going to use, or do it
But
like
I
I said,
think
the Paris?
Paris showed another way completely, isn't it?
Exactly, and it can be done. You
I
know,
mean, we've both been to Beijing. I've seen the bird's nest. I've been inside. I mean, so much was made of building it, the
yes,
money, the
yes,
effort, the showcasing of
the
it. And
architectural
my God,
design.
yeah, and look at what Paris did. It
Yeah,
was,
brilliant. It's simply done. Very, very simple. It's not tough to do. Okay, having a athletes parade on a boat is is complicated, and using your
but
city as the
the city
yeah,
is
yeah,
the
I love it.
stadium.
The city is the
Every
stadium. Exactly. I loved it. I love the idea, and they just did it in this mad way. Okay, maybe you don't have to do that, but do you need to build more stadiums? Where are you going to hold these games? Is it going to be? Is it going to be India's games, or is it going to be a city's games? Is it going to be India at the Olympic Games, or is it going to be a city and its
mm,
neighborhood and wherever the water is close or whatever? So you have to
mm,
decide all these things.
mm,
It could be an Indian Olympics because there are facilities everywhere. You just have to build them. I mean, you just have to like spruce them up, make them better, improve them, and make them usable for later. And don't build 50,000, 80,000, 90,000 seater stadiums. Oh
So,
no, you've actually got to.
what do you make of the Reliance Foundation and the India House that they hosted? All this, from what I could gather, is an attempt by Mrs. Ambani, who is a member of the IOC, an individual member, an independent member representing the Olympics in India. You know, is what do you make of these efforts? These are all related to the eventual possible bid
Oh
that we
yes.
want to make, I'm guessing, right?
I absolutely think that they are. I mean, the Reliance Foundation, the work that it does in sports is great. They've done a lot of good work at athletes. They're working at football. They have a center in Mumbai, I think in Navi Mumbai
Yeah,
somewhere, which is
yeah.
fine. The India House is their own private enterprise, their own private
Mm,
project. They can do whatever they want with it. There's no whatever we may feel about it and all that. It's their business. But definitely, it's a part of being out there and saying India are going to host the Olympics. But in the middle of this, you still have the wrestlers are not going to go away. Their problem is not going to go away. You still have them. They are like your biggest um, reason to say that why has this not been solved? Why has this not been sorted out?
mm,
Why are elections? So it's a. I'm not saying that it won't get just brushed aside and shoved under the carpet. There are
mm.
people that are very good at doing this and they'll do it. But that's a question that we have to keep asking. We have to keep asking.
What is it that Paris 2024 is for you?
I just love the fact that the city was the Olympics. That was the
Yeah.
stadium. The city was the stadium. I thought that was such a revolutionary and a great idea. You're watching beach volleyball and the Eiffel Towers in the background. You're watching archery and there's the Napoleon's tomb on the other side. It's fabulous. So it's like showing you the best that's there without. Normally, Olympics are held in a corner of a city which they're trying to
And very
rebuild.
sanitized, right?
Very sanitized
It
and
seems very close. This
yeah.
was just beautiful to see.
Correct. So obviously, Parisians they've got a lot of restrictions on where they can go and what they can do, but people are enjoying it because it's happening on the street outside. But there are very few cities in India that will have that kind of space to be able to do this, to have
Mm.
this kind of a city in the Olympics, kind of a feel about it. But India is big enough to do it. This is my idea out there. India, it's an India's Olympics. Come to various parts of India and play your various sports there.
So not a city 3036, but India 3036 is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
could
Why
be
not?
a
Why not?
possibility.
Why not? It just seems more sustainable and doable.
Mm.
Except people who have run sports events in India will say, "You are crazy. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's a circus." Because look at the amount of agencies we're dealing with. At least in the city, everything's in our control. But anyway, it's just an idea out
I must say, really enjoyed watching this, very enormously. I followed a lot of the games. I got very invested. I shed tears even when other people were winning. It
there.
just,
Lovely,
there is a
lovely,
wonderful
fantastic.
quote by Muhammad Ali. It's right here.
Yeah.
And he says, the fight is won or lost far away from witnesses behind the lines, in the gym, and out there on the road, long before I dance under those lights.
Yeah. Wow. Only
And
Ali.
that
Yeah.
statement, yeah, I mean,
Only Ali.
they were dancing under the lights. You're watching
Yeah.
everybody dance under
Yes.
the lights, and when
Beautiful.
they win or lose, you remember everything else that's
Gone
you
before.
know
Yeah.
that's got them there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Sharda. We will talk again soon, and
Lovely chatting
good luck.
as always.
Thank
Great
you,
chatting.
thank you for
Thank
making
you.
time. Yeah, as
Thank
usual,
you.
we'll keep talking.
Yeah. Bye.